mask off because I don't think you can't handle
But
it.
give it the distance.
Distance?
Yeah, come on. My wife's been tested twice. It's because she went in with breathing problems. Okay, you're recording now?
Yes.
Jeez.
Okay.
So
we're good.
today we're at the Lacell County Historical Society, and where they have an exhibit here for Sonny Jim Bottomley. I happen to be Sonny Jim's second cousin, and so I want to do a little dissertation on some of his accomplishments. He was a Major League Baseball player, first base for the Cardinals, Hall of Fame out of the Cardinals. He was born in Oglesby, Illinois on April 23rd, 1900. And as a small child, he moved to Nokomis, Illinois, where he grew up and went to school. Showed a bent for baseball, so he began playing with the local team. It was quite good. And the word got out, and someone told the Cardinals. They sent Branch Rickey, a scout for the Cardinals, to come down and look at him. And he had a really good day that day. And Branch Rickey, liking what he's seen, signed him to a minor league contract. Spent 2 years in the minor. In 1922, he was called up to the Major League team, the Cardinals, and played there 10 years, very successful. And in 1932, he was traded to the Cincinnati Reds. Played there until 1935, and then he moved to the St. Louis Browns and played there until 1937 when he retired. During the time he was at St. Louis Browns, Roger Hornsby was the manager, player management. And so he, the team was terrible, and they were so bad he threw up his hands halfway through the season. So Sonny Jim finished the year as the manager of the St. Louis Browns. And then he retired after that. He played 7 games in the minor leagues at Syracuse and managed a team for a year, and then completely got out of it. He was a radio announcer down in St. Louis for a year. He was a part-time scout for the Cubs, believe it or not. And some of the accomplishments he had, I mean, today, if he did these things today, he'd be making a lot more money than he was making in the 1920s. He went 12 RBIs in a single game, never topped, but tied by Mark Whitten in 1993.
Mm-hmm.
And he went 6 for 6 twice. Once was the 12 RBI game. He had 7 home runs in 5 games during one stint. Was most valuable player in 1928, for which he got $1,000 in gold. He was, let's see what he played. Blanked. Gonna have to cut that. He is on the top 100 list of hits, doubles, RBIs, slugging percentage, batting percentage, and triples. Still to this day in the top 100. He holds a National League record for the number of unassisted double plays with 7. Still a record. He's the only baseball player in history of baseball to have 40 doubles, 30 home runs, and 20 triples. I'm dry.
I just got to say, that's really something. I mean, a lot of baseball players nowadays get home runs and doubles. The most impressive is the triples.
Exactly. You know, and one of the things, he's on a list of players in which you had to have a certain number of RBIs, you had to have a certain number of hits, you had to have a certain number of home runs to get on this list. He's on the list. He's 16th on that list with the 1,422 RBIs he got during his career. You had to have at least 1,400. So he's on that list. And if you read the names of the lists on that thing, it's pretty impressive. And it also, in that case, it eliminates all of the flash in the pan guys that come up and they do real well for a year or something, and then they're gone. You never hear from them again. You know, you've seen it, it's just like movies. But he got on that list because of that, you know. And there's several other lists that he's on that I haven't said anything about because, you know. But he batted .371 one year and didn't win the batting crown. There was won by Roger Hornsby with 384.
Mm-hmm.
And he was involved in the closest batting championship race in the history of baseball. It went down to the last day of the season. Jim finished third with a 254.2 or 354.2. The second place guy was a 354.7, and the guy that won it was 354.9. It was decided by thousandths of a point. Thinking about, if he'd took the day off, he might have won it.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't do that in those days. I mean, they just played. And one of the stories that they had some young guy there, it was a shortstop rookie, and he was all nervous. And Sonny Jim said to him, "Son, just throw the ball in my general direction and I'll catch it." And he had a 988 fielding percentage, which, if you know what that is, that's really good. And if you've seen his glove, you would think, I couldn't even catch a ball with that glove because it had no pocket. It wasn't one of these bushel baskets that they use nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very, very bad. But he actually died in St. Louis in 1959, December 11th. He was sitting in the parking lot waiting for his wife doing her Christmas shopping and had a heart attack. And he's buried in Sullivan, Illinois, where he owned a gas station and a motel, operated and owned it. And that's where he's buried. I got pictures of the marker, actually. And some of the things that I remember, like I said, my mother told me about the time, and it was 1925. She was cooking dinner, and she was pregnant with my old sister. And she heard a knock at the door, and she went and opened the door, and there was this handsome guy standing there paying a visit. And it was Jim, obviously. Jim's mother was actually died in Utica here at my grandmother's house, which still exists. And my grandmother was taking care of her. And this statue that we got here, you can see here in the background, was actually James Einhaus, a young Cardinal fan, went to the city council of Oglesby and convinced them that they should be honoring their native son. So they agreed, and they named the Little League ball diamond the Sonny Jim Bottomley Diamond. And they had this statue made with a plaque in his honor. I happen to have the honor of unveiling that. And the humorous part about it is I had my speech all prepared, and the person in front of me was a news reporter from the local radio station, I believe, and he stole half of my material, and that really flummoxed me. What am I going to do now? So I had to kind of ad-lib. But what was neat about it was that when I got the word that this was going to happen, that they were going to honor me by letting me unveil the statue, I sent a mass email out to my relatives, and I got people from California and Washington State and from Ohio and from Pennsylvania and of course Illinois. We had probably 50 people there, and it turned into quite an event. So, but it's one of the strange things about it. I was in high school, and Jim was still alive. Never met the man. Never bragged about him. Because, he was just a member of, But I could have went and visited him, but I never did. So, is there anything you want to ask me?
Leland, you shared this family photo. I'm reading the back of it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so in the front we have James in the passenger seat with his older brother Ralph in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
I guess James lost Ralph to a mine collapse. James's father also was a coal miner, and James himself was too. He, to support his family, worked as a grocery clerk, a railroad clerk, a blacksmith, a truck driver. And I am wondering about if you've imagined what it might have been like for James to rise into that bright stardom coming from his background and working his way up, enjoying the sport as entertainment after work, and then that becoming his work.
I think because of his disposition, he probably was impressed, but I think he just enjoyed it. I think he enjoyed. You can see some of the pictures of him. For instance, this picture right here that we have here of Sonny Jim. It's in the exhibit. He's harassing someone here, probably out of the dugout, but he's doing it with a good-natured look. You can see that he's having a good time, and so that's, I think, was his demeanor. That's why he got the nickname Sonny Jim, because he had a pleasant demeanor. And I sure wished I'd have gone to visit him, to be honest. I have family picture that my sister had it all folded up, and I had to correct it and made a copy, and then I cropped out him on it, and it's probably shortly before he died, actually. And he's got one of my first cousins sitting on his lap. This is the picture here. That's Von J. Bottomley, one of my uncle's children, that's sitting on his lap.
That's a beautiful picture.
And I had to correct that because it had been folded.
Mm-hmm.
Did a good job, I thought, on pixel by pixel correction of it. But I would have loved to have met the man, because I think I would have loved it.
I know that is one of the tragedies. You never know it's gone until it's gone.
Well, yeah, I was in high school and we graduated in '56, and I got married. So in '50, I was still, I was an adult. We could have went, never thought about it.
Oh yeah.
And then of course he got inducted into the Hall of Fame in '74. So that's when his notoriety began. But it's kind of nice to have. It's very nice to have some famous relative. It's easy to do your family tree. Believe me, I mean, if you run into somebody with the same name, you say, "Are you related to Sonny Jim Bottomley?" If they say no, they're not your relative, because your famous relatives. Mm-hmm. And so I've had several occasions. I met some online, and they said, "Well, no, we're not related to them." I said, "Well, it's still Bottomleys." There was only one Bottomley. The Black Death killed all the Bottomleys in England, so we all go back to one John Bottomley. And that's why there's a lot of John Bottomleys in the Bottomley family, because, it all stemmed from him, because he was the only survivor. And that's where we came from, England, in 1868. But
going back to Von J, the boy in the photo, you'd mentioned that your uncle Avon was a photographer and
yes.
probably took that photo. He
yes.
lived down in Pekin, but liked to come up to the river to spend time on the boat, yeah. And Von J liked steering that boat. Mm-hmm. And you also provided this family photo where Avon is listed, but can you talk about the people in that photo?
Yes, this is the Bottomley family here with the. And we have Harv, Ernest, my Aunt Della, and Bill Bottomley, and my dad. And then you have Robert and Bill, the father, and Stokes and Stella, my grandmother, and Avon sitting on the thing. And strangely enough, my dad is a spitting image of my grandchild. I mean, if you took at the same age and looked, you wouldn't tell them apart. It's unbelievable. But see, Uncle Bill, or Grandfather Bill, his brother was Sonny Jim's father.
Would you have that pointed out to show them so they can see that in point?
And we can also
put it on there.
Put it on the screen,
okay,
as a still image.
And then put some. Mm-hmm. But Bill, Sonny Jim's dad was my grandfather's brother. That's how we got our relationship on it. Thing.
I also found this article in your collection of materials. It's a picture of Sonny Jim and a goat on the field, and the article says, "Jim milked the cow on the demand to the shrieks of a 10,000 Ladies' Day crowd." And I just would love to hear you talk about his appeal to women in his time.
Well,
And here's the
he
image.
basically is a pretty good looking guy, and so, obviously the ladies came, 10,000 of them come to see him play baseball that day. This was kind of toward the end of his career, I believe, when they give him this thing. But, he was a farm boy at heart. I mean, let's face it. He didn't want to be a coal miner. See, his dad was actually the manager of the coal mine. And that's why he moved to Nokomis. That's why he come to the Bottomley, why he came to the United States, because he was one of the ones that came to manage a coal mine in Oglesby. And then he moved down to Nokomis and managed one there. And then I had another relative that was a coal mine manager in Dow, Illinois. We have streets named Bottomley Street in both towns.
Where exactly did he live in Oglesby?
There's some, I think, I didn't write it down here. It's on my other thing. It was on, the house doesn't exist anymore. It's, I think in Walnut Street somewhere in there, but there's some different opinions on that. I've heard two different places. My daughter was a postie over in Oglesby, and somebody told her different than what I was told. So I don't know who was right, but it was it's off Walnut Street is where I was told, but it's only a block or two off Walnut Street to the north. But I don't know exactly where it was.
Also in your materials, we have this photo of Sonny Jim when he was being interviewed. He was in the hospital at the time receiving treatment for anemia. And the caption says that he's sorry for the major league pitchers of today, and goes on to say that the big reason for low games being so few is that umpires throw in too many new smooth balls, limiting the amount of stuff that a pitcher could put on the ball. Sonny Jim came to rise at a time when the sport was trying to present a new, clean image, and he was definitely a poster boy for that. But in this particular statement, it sounds like he might be a little nostalgic for the time when the game was a little dirtier.
Back in the days when he was going, you had the slippery elm spitballs and the tobacco balls, and the balls would get black, and and they cut little niches in them so they get that curved ball would break a little more. And so to me, that tells you how good a hitter he really was, because he was batting against some of the best pitchers in the world. And today, you got these guys with these hefty batting average, but let's face it, the pitching isn't what it used to be. I mean, when you had the Dizzy Deans and some of the big names like that, I think Daffy Dean was his brother. But, he played on the Gas House Gang, so he played with those guys, and very successfully played against, He did lose the World Series to the Yankees in '28. After that good year, they swept the Cardinals. But in '26, they did beat them in 7 games. They beat them. But Jim had a good game. Even though the game they got beat, he didn't bat real well, but he batted 3 runs in and that. But he had a game. They played Philadelphia, and the final score was 28-6, and Jim had 7 RBIs in that game. And that's the second best run total in baseball, the highest being the Cubs at 36 runs. So that was a pretty good accomplishment. I think my wife's cousin sent me the article out of the normal paper, the Bloomington paper, about that. They have the stats and everything. I should have looked and seen what his day was, but to have 7 RBIs, he had to have a pretty good hitting day, I would think. But he was very good. But you win ball games by RBIs and runs scored. You don't win them by being on base. And Sonny Jim was one of them clutch hitters. If you got a guy on base, he was probably going to get him in, obviously. So that's what you look for in baseball, is getting runs in. He also stole quite a few bases, actually. I think he had 49 stolen bases, which is pretty good for
first baseman, and he must have had some legs on him then.
Yeah. So that was pretty good. And like I said, it's been an interesting ride. I've collected a lot of things. I never did get a game use bat. This bat here is my bat. It's not a game use bat, but you can go. Actually, I believe you can go down to the Louisville Sluggers and have one of these made. They still have the dies for everybody they ever made a bat for.
Really? Wow.
But this is an original.
Mhm.
And one of the humorous stories is Holland. What's her name? What's his?
Doug?
Mine.
Yeah,
Doug, Mary?
The one that lives in Peru. They're all known as DJ. Okay, but anyway, so that makes it confusing. You got Douglas James, Dennis James, and Bucky. Bucky Hollins is his nickname. Okay, he has actually related to Sonny Jim the same as me. He's a second cousin of Sonny Jim through the mother's side, but I got the name and he didn't. So, but he had, as a youth, he had 2 autographed bats from Sonny Jim, and he would throw rocks in the air and hit them with the bats. And my brother-in-law used to go out there, which was a cousin, and he'd find them laying out in the yard, and he'd take them back in the house. So, they were probably destroyed, but he was using them to hit rocks with. Them bats would be very valuable.
Jeez,
right
I'd hit him with the bat.
Very valuable now, actually, I mean, I probably shouldn't say this, but I signed baseball cards for Tops, 3 for Tops and 2 for the Upper Deck Company. They made baseball cards. And some of those are going for, a lot of money now. I mean, one of them was, I think when I checked on eBay, and it's been a while, was like $1,100 for this card because they only made one. I seriously think maybe it might be his wife's signature because it was off a check. You kind of see that it was off a check. If it's like me, I've never signed a check. My wife always signed my check because I was always at work when the check had come, so she signed it. But I thought that was pretty neat, but.
Since you're talking about things that you're collecting, I know this image came to your awareness somewhat recently. Sonny Jim with
Oh yeah, this was in 1928. This is him and Babe Ruth in 28 shaking hands in front of the crowd.
What do you think Babe Ruth and Sonny Jim might have had in common?
Yeah, I think home runs, and being good ball players. I think Babe was kind of a down-to-earth kind of guy that ate a bunch of hot dogs before a game and enjoyed playing the game. And I think Sonny Jim enjoyed playing the game also. And like everything in life, if you enjoy what you're doing, it's not work. That's my philosophy on it. There goes the phone.
Oh, it's okay. I just got to say one comment on this picture. It's a really beautiful picture because it's the 1920s. It's the golden age of baseball, and you see 2 slugging giants in the National League with Bottomley and the American League with Babe Ruth. That's just a really nice combination.
Probably at that time, maybe both were the home run champions of that year, because that year Jim was a home run champion also. See, so it's a remarkable. I have that picture in color, actually. I mean, I bought it online, but I have one in color.
That's really beautiful. I mean, baseball is popular now, but it was nowhere near as popular as then. 1928 was it? What year?
That was 28.
1928, right before the stock market crashed. That's a beautiful American picture. I just got to say.
And that's like apple pie.
Yeah, it is like apple pie.
so but I enjoy. I mean, like I said, I have. Well, I don't know if you've seen my book when I brought it. Did you see the book I brought? I have a large low-sleeve notebook that's that thick. It's full of stuff from Sonny Jim
Wait, maybe it's like with the cards and stuff. Maybe I scanned it because I scanned a lot of your stuff.
Yeah,
maybe
probably scanned it. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. It was that blue book with the. And then I had other books on. I never did bring my contracts that I had, which I'm a commensurate keeper of things, and then I. Like things organized, so it's all organized too. I kept all my contracts for the cards in a book with the examples of the cards that were made, and scans from online when they were selling them. But when you do a contract for a baseball card, they send you, they make 25,000 what they call base cards. And they sent me some of the base cards. And then some of the specialty cards, of course, you don't get because sometimes they'll only make 4 of those. You know, and the one baseball, the first card I had was an upper deck card. And it was a game use bat. They took a bat and they cut it into little wafers. And they mounted a wafer of that in the card. It's a plastic card, not cardboard, plastic. And there's a piece of the bat in that card. Last time I checked, it's worth $36. I have 3 of them. But they sent me one, and I bought a couple more when they were cheaper, of course. So, like I said, I have. Yeah, you've seen how many baseball cards I got. A lot of them. I bought a lot of different cards, and a lot of them are not that expensive, $1 or something, but they're on eBay. If you go and put in Sonny Jim Bottomley, you're going to find some. I did. There's a new bunch that are out that they didn't come and ask me for my permission, which you didn't really have to do anyway. The agent that called me I said, why me? And he says, well, you're the member of the museum down in Nokomis, Illinois, and we got your telephone number from them. So you're interested. You might as well sign the contract and take the money and run, he said. So I did. But my family will probably come in here and want some more money.
I just got to say that's something else. Like I showed you this earlier. I just want to show the video of I got this old time baseball book. This is from 1961, so this has been 2 years after he passed away. But it had this booklet of all these different records, and sure enough, you have Jim Bottomley drove in 12 runs in a single game. And what's nice is it doesn't just tell you that, it also gives you a breakdown. First inning, he singled, drove in 2, double, homered. He must have got a grand slam. He homered, drove in 4 runs. Then he homered again, brought in 2 runs. Then he singled, 2 runs, singled, and 1 run, which is just a fantastic performance.
Nice day.
Yeah, fantastic day. Some people can't get that in their careers, let alone a game.
Yeah, and to do 6 for 6 twice, it means it had to be, they had to have it scored a lot of runs because you don't normally get 6 at bats and get 4 usually.
Yeah, that's a lot of rotation.
That's a lot of rotation.
Uh-huh.
Now that Philadelphia game where it was 28-6, they scored 10 runs in the first inning and 10 runs in the 4th or something like that.
Now, can you clarify some on that? Now, which team in Philadelphia? Was the Athletics or the Phillies at that time?
I don't know.
Things change.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a Phillies or, I don't know.
But either way.
It's probably said in the article,
okay,
but I don't remember it. I just read it. Like I said, my wife's cousin sent it to me. She got it and cut it out and just sent it here 3-4 days ago, She's 86. Oh, she's has been staying home.
Okay.
As we all have.
Well, of course. But things change so much. I think the one game where he had the 12 RBIs, it was against the Brooklyn Robins at the time. They became the Dodgers like a few years later.
And there was a kind of a tie-in too when Witten did the 12. Somehow there was a tie-in to that situation where the guy that was the pitcher that day was either a manager or a coach of the Cardinals at that time.
Really, some kind of tie-in.
There's a tie-in there.
Let's see.
That you might research that and find it.
It was almost 70 years later, actually 69 years later. That's something else.
Because it was unbelievable, But I don't know. What do you got?
I've only got one more question before James does his.
Oh my God.
Well, this is one of the ads that you let us borrow, Lucky Strike, and I'm just wondering, did Sonny Jim smoke like everyone?
I don't remember smoking, but those days there was a lot of chewing going on, and that's why hence the spitballs, where they put that old chew in there and balls would be brown by the day, because in those days when the ball got hit into the stands, they didn't keep it, they threw it back, and they used the ball until it couldn't possibly be used anymore. So the guys could put a lot of stuff on it, and a lot of it was slippery elm. They chew that and spit it on. Vaseline's another great one, and spit. I mean, there's still guys that got accused of spitballs in my era in the 50s, when they were playing. They had a few guys that were accused of Vaseline in a few balls and spitting on a few of them. But like you say, they get a little smudge on them and they throw the ball out. You know, the balls are all rubbed with a mud from a certain place. It's a secret where they get it. One guy provides a mud before the game. An umpire will rub up 6 dozen baseballs with this mud to take the shine off of them. And but it's a special mud that comes out of a swamp somewhere. They won't tell where it's at.
Yeah, I think it's down pretty for sure down south, like
Somewhere,
Georgia or something like that. I have read about that too.
Yeah.
That's something else. Man.
But you know, it's been a fun ride, keeping track of all this and trying to, you know, it's one of my things. I mean, whenever I get into a conversation with somebody, I throw some stats at them. That's why I kind of know them, because I used them quite a bit, you know. But trying to, before this camera, come out and suddenly you go blank. You draw that blank where you, well, whoa, you know, it's gone. That's why they have teleprompters. Because I have a piece of paper here that I probably left out some of the things I was going to say. And, you know, no, it did pretty good, actually.
Yeah, there's one thing. Didn't you say he got like 100 RBIs like in 6 straight seasons or something?
Yeah,
like
he
that?
had he did, I think it was 6 straight seasons. He had over 100 RBIs, and he batted, when he was with the Cardinals, he batted over 300. I think 7 times, and 2 times he was like 299 one time and 296. So his lifetime batting average after 16 years in Major League Baseball was 310. And so, you know how it is with everything. When you get older, you know, he never, when he went to Cincinnati and St. Louis, he never hit 300 again. But by today's standards, he hit pretty good because, you know, in the 250, they can get you $1 million nowadays. He's probably in the 280s and that, you know, but that will erode your batting average down to 310. So that's what he had to contend with. But yeah, he's a heck of a hitter.
It was not only like a power hitter like Babe Ruth, just hit home runs. He seemed to be very, very well rounded. He hit some over the fence, but also be able to hit triples and be able to run around the bases.
Now, one of the things is they had that list of slugging percentage. Okay, you add up all the bases and they do a percentage of it. He's in the 600 class, 600 class. That's his slugging percent. That's why he's still in that top 100.
Really? Jeez.
He hit so many doubles and triples and home runs. They add that all up and then they do their little calculations, and he come up on the list. I mean, there's him. You know, when I made my baseball cards, the upper deck, there was only 40 players they selected, and he was, of course, one of those. It was selected by the Upper Deck Company, and which is an honor in itself. To be, you know, I mean, he was quite the guy. I like I said, I already reiterate. I would have liked to have met him, but unfortunately can't do that.
It is just really something else that he let's see, what year did he retire? Was it 37 or 38?
37, actually 37 he retired from Major League Baseball. He played 7 games with Syracuse, and then he managed them to the end of the season, and then he got out. But
it's been 82 years of baseball, and some of his records still are up
Still
there.
there.
That's impressive.
Still
82
there.
years of new people always coming up. You got also you have Africa. You have much more wider base now. You have Venezuelans, you have Cubans, you have African Americans that have come into the league. It's a much more diverse league now, and he's still up there statistically, which is really amazing to speak of today.
That's amazing, you know, that he can stay there in the top 100. I mean, you know, some of the categories he's in with Hank Aaron and Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle. You know, some of the names that are on these listed. He is in that list.
He's with there. Yeah, he's up there.
You know, and I think the one where he's 18th or 16th, I think it was. Them guys are in that list. You know, so it shows you it's a quality group. You know, I think the most money he ever made was $25,000 a year. Of course, this was 1920s.
It's still a good chunk of change.
It's still a pretty good chunk of change, but I think I one time seen, I thought they said it was like $425,000 in today's money, but that was some years ago. But it's nothing like the millions these guys are getting now, you know, for batting 250. Imagine what he could have made.
Yeah,
the
it is.
statistics
I mean,
that Yeah, he could have done pretty much done. You know, in those days, you played with the team you were at. They didn't go hunting for somebody else. I mean, today you have a good year, and right away you're looking for somebody else to pay you more money. You know, and so you're gonna your contract expire.
There's one more thing I wanted to bring up. I found particularly interesting. One name popped up in there was Branch Rickey.
Yeah.
That makes kind of like discovering him in a way.
Yeah. He was at the time was a Cardinal scout, and he went on to. The name was familiar to me. I think he was involved in managing.
Yes.
He might have been involved with managing maybe New York or
Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yeah,
He was Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, okay.
He brought Jackie Robinson into the major leagues. He had a really eye for talent, so it was something he chose.
Yeah, when he came to that game, I think that day Jim had, you know, home runs and doubles and a couple of home runs, and you know, really had a really good game. And Branch Rickey said, I like what I see here. And he immediately signed him that day, you know. And he signed a contract, minor league contract. He went to a team in South Dakota, and another team in South Dakota, and I think one maybe in Texas, and then he moved up to the club. So he was in 3 different minor league teams, probably AAA, AA, you know how they do it. And then he got up in 22. He didn't start the season with the Cardinals in 22, but he come up in 22 and supplanted whoever was on first base. And one of the interesting story we were over watching the skydivers one day, and I looked, and somebody was going to go along, not make the drop zone. I said to my wife, let's go pick them up and bring them back to the airport. And I said, okay. So we drove over. We picked up some young gal that dropped out into a cornfield, and she's in the back seat, and we were talking, and she was related to Stan Musial. I said, you know, your relative is a guy that takes away my relative's notoriety a little bit, because Stan's a real good first baseman too, see? But what are the odds of that, of picking somebody off that just jumped out of an airplane and have a relative that played on the same team as your relative? And she forgot her helmet in my car, and I had to go back and find her. And I'm thinking, how am I going to find this woman in a hangar with 200 or 300 people that I only got a glance at because I was driving? So I walked in with the helmet in my hand. I'm walking along, and somebody said, sir, that's my wife's helmet. So I got it back to her. That was kind of interesting, but it just shows you the oddity of things. Like, I don't know if I said this before, but James Einhaus he lives across the street from me now. I might have said that before, but he was living in Oglesby at the time, you know, and so now he lives across the street. As a matter of fact, on the way up here, I told him I was coming here. So he might be, this is the guy that did this. If it wasn't for him, that statue would not be here.
It really is a small world. That is something else. The oddity of life.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's time for the question. Okay, let's see. Well, I'll do it nice and slow so we have plenty of time. Now, if you could describe Sonny Jim Bottomley in one word other than sunny, what would that word be, Leland?
Friendly.
Friendly. That's an American friendly.
Yeah, that's
nice.
Because I think Jim was the kind of guy that if you come up and ask him for an autograph, he would give it to you without a hesitation. I'm trying to think of the manager of the Cardinals. We were at the Cardinals have a museum with their Hall of Famers. Obviously, Sonny Jim is in it. And we were there when we went to this game in which I got this t-shirt or this jersey, which, by the way, if you look at the back, this guy won the ball game in the 11th inning on a day when they gave 25,000 of his shirts away. What are the odds of that? I mean, there was a lot of cheering on that. But he was the manager, and boy, every time I got my picture taken with him. And we were in the museum, and he happened to be there. He's a Hall of Famer too, and he managed the Cardinals. And you might look that up. You can probably find that. And some gal asked him, will you have an autograph? And he said, oh, I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. He said so. And by that I said, can I have a picture taken with you? Oh, sure. And we're standing there with our arms around each other. So let's, have a Hall of Famer with your picture taken with a Hall of Famer was kind of neat. But I wish I could remember his name. I should have phoned up on that before I came. But you can check that out.
We can look that up. Don't worry. The powers of the internet are at our disposal.
Exactly.
So don't worry about that.
Exactly. So I'm about dry. I could probably talk for another hour, but I want to go eat some Chinese food today.
Ooh, nice
You
choice.
did amazing, and you told stories I never heard before. The bat with the rocks, and the woman dropping out of the airplane.
Yeah, that was kind of neat that day. I says, what are the odds? I was kidding her. I said, "Oh, I was the guy that took my guy off, kind of, because everybody knows Musa, but nobody knew because Musa was more on a modern era, and a very great, very good ball player too. Then you had Pojo or what his name in come
I'm
in
not
there.
sure.
He come in there to play first base too, and had a lot of stats. But as I said before, that's the flash in the pan guys. I mean, he was there a while, but he was playing against how many teams in the league now? 28. I don't know.
30 now.
30 now? You play against 30 players, your pitching is not going to be as good as when we got 8 players where they're taking the cream of the cream. And to make the major leagues in the 20s, you had to be really good. Because, the odds of getting it at all were high, and you had to have the talent. They didn't sign them 250 hitters.
Well, I think that was wonderful.
Oh, I know another stat. I got another stat. It just popped into my head. Sonny Jim is the only player who ever come out of the team's farm system to the Hall of Fame. He's the only player that did that. Was in their farm system, come up through the farm system all the way up to the Hall of Fame. He's the only player that did that.
I feel like that's good. It's good for him, kind of depressing for them, for their farm system.
Yeah, to think that they ain't making it all the way.
Yeah. The crops are dying.
That at the time you got to remember some of these stats I got some years ago. I don't think they've been changed, but that's what the internet's for.
What is the farm system?
Well, that's what Sonny Jim, when they sign you to the minors, they call that the farm system. It's like taking them down to the farm and training them up, and you start at A, and then you start double A, and then triple A is the last one. And from triple A, then you go to the majors. So it's like a 3-tier system on the farm system.
I wonder if Pujols will maybe break that. Because wasn't he down in the? I know he was down in Peoria for a time.
He might, yeah.
So he might break that once he retires.
If he gets into the Hall of Fame, which he probably is a kind of a gimme, so he'll probably break that because he was farm. But now you get him, you got more guys, more shots. When he was doing it, there was only 8 teams, so there was only 8 farm systems.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is there anything that you can think of that you'd like to say about Sonny Jim in his early days, his early life and family?
Really, I really didn't. I didn't really know. I was just a kid running around Utica and going up in the woods and playing, and that, not knowing that I had a famous ball player. At the time, he was, wasn't as famous as he is now. But if you want to see his grave mark, go to the Find a Grave site and look up Sonny Jim. There's a picture there. I don't know if I put it there or somebody else did, but he has a memorial on Find a Grave. If you're into genealogy, that's a great source of information there, because I personally have taken probably 25,000 pictures of cemetery markers and probably put 15,000 of those in memorials. And I've got, 6,400 or something that I've made. I'm still playing with that. I'm too old to walk them cemeteries anymore, though. Too tough.
This might be a little too far out. We don't have to include it in this particular series of videos, but is there anything that you want to say about the History Club that meets at Utica, or the work that you've done there?
Yeah, we're me and my wife and Gloria Alvarado, the ex-mayor at Utica, and I'd known her since she was, 4 years old, because we lived with, 4 houses away from each other our whole growing up time and everything. But we're the last remaining live members of the Utica History Club. We did that for 10 years. Every Monday for 10 years, we went into the library and we basically put their pictures and articles and everything into loose leaf notebooks. Last time I counted, there was like 250 that we'd done. When we got there, it was just boxes of things. We went through the pictures and put them in the categories, the different categories: Starbuck, Deer Park, all that stuff. it's kind of wound down now because we retired basically, and so. But if you're interested in Utica history, here in the library, you can get all the information you want because it's there. As my wife has read a lot of LaSalle County history and probably knows it as well as about anybody. Actually, she claims her memory is not good, but it's actually very good, and she just doesn't want to brag about it, I guess, because you ask her a question about somebody, you ask about James Clark, and she'll give you a dissertation on him. You know, which is actually one of the big luminaries in Utica during the day. He was kind of what built it up, you know. But like I said, this place has a vast library of information on the county, and that's why this is here because Sonny Jim is a native son of LaSalle County. That's why he's in this museum, because he was born in Oglesby. He should be here. He's one of the famous people. That museum in Nokomis has two other Hall of Famers. I think Schock is one of them. I can't think of the name of the other guy. But like I said, I'm a member. I've been there once. And when we went down there, it's a small little storefront museum when we got there, and it was closed. I went to the gas station, asked about it. He called the guy that was running it, and he opened it up for us. And then they moved into a better building, and then that caught fire. But the fire department and the citizenry salvaged everything in that place before, they didn't lose anything. And they built a new building, and that's what it's in now. It's on the main dragon in Nokomis. We drove by, but they were closed on the Sunday we were there. We were coming back from our grandson's graduation from college, and we drove up 52. You have to go off 52 a little bit to get to Nokomis. It's not on 52. And that's where we took the picture of Bottomley. I think one is Bottomley Avenue and the other one's Bottomley Street. There's one in Dowell and one in Nokomis. I have pictures, obviously.
Of course.
I think my daughter used hers as a Facebook picture for a while.
Really? Oh, that's something else.
Yeah. So
I think it was good. That really went smooth, I think. I mean, sometimes you get a little bit nervous, but you were absolutely wonderful.
Well, I think when I switched off from reading it
Mm-hmm.
and memorized it, you could see him staring into, my memory is, kind of have an eidetic memory.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reading it when I'm looking off. I'm actually reading that information.
Uh-huh.
It's not 100%, but it's pretty good. I can remember. Like I said, I memorized all this stuff. There's not many people 82 years old is going to memorize all of that. But
that's wonderful. I think we can.
Yeah, you can go in there and cut out some good spots.
I think those are definitely some good spots in there. There was nice little nuggets of gold in there. Perfect. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please check out the other 2 videos on the Bottomley interview. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you enjoyed all of this, please also stop by the LaSalle County Historical Museum in Utica, Illinois, where you can learn so many things about LaSalle County.